Camp Barakel is located on 350 wooded acres, and we're surrounded actually by other forests. To our east lies a private wildlife refuge that has 6,500 acres, and then to our west is the Huron National Forest. And so we don't think a lot about earthquakes or floods, but we do think about and are concerned about fire, forest fire. 40 years ago, it was 1976, it was a very dry summer for us. By July, the ferns had all turned brown and the leaves were crackling underfoot early in that summer. On the morning of August 25, a strong wind was gusting. We didn't know it, but a fire had broken out in the National Forest and flames were actually headed our way. Our founder, who is known as Uncle Johnny, wrote a book in which he writes about that day. I saw smoke some distance off in the forest to the west and thought, that's a lot of smoke. I kept watching it and it didn't diminish a bit. I took the pickup truck and went out the west gate and into the forest. You could see the smoke increasing. By the time I got out there a couple of miles, the guys from the local fire department, the Department of Natural Resources, and also the National Forest Service were all there. They had bulldozers and equipment, and I said to a couple of them, should I get excited about this? Oh, don't worry, they said. So I went back to camp thinking it was under control. They were forming a break where they opened up fresh earth and caused what's known as a fire break. He actually ended up going back out there that afternoon 2 or 3 times and discovered that the fire indeed had jumped the first break. They'd formed a second. It had now jumped that one. They'd formed a third. If it jumped that one, our property line was next. And instead of trying to stop it there, they probably would have come into our property and used our lake and the neighbor's lake to try to stop the fire. At one point late in the afternoon, Uncle Johnny and his son walked out to the northwest corner of our property. He writes, the smoke was so thick you couldn't breathe normally. You could scoop some fresh earth over using a shovel and press your nose to that earth to try to take a breath of fresher air. And while they were out there, the two of them, he prayed. He writes about that. It looked so bad, I said to my son, it's a goner. We can never hold it. So they got down on their knees and prayed, saying simply, Lord, this camp is yours, and it's been yours for a long time, and we want it to stay that way. We pray that somehow, some way, you'll save it. You've brought this ministry into being. It is yours. Your will be done. So I ask you again, is it more important to pray or to work? Would it be right to just pray without working? Would it be right to just work without praying? The Lord sent a bulldozer driver coming right out of the smoke, and he began to open a fire break right along our property line. But those had been jumped before. But at that same moment, hundreds of people from the Fairview area began to come, and each one had a shovel or a rake or a wet burlap sack. And for longer than 30 hours, they helped man that line, beating back the sparks and flames that threatened to jump over it. The Lord himself calmed the winds. And do you know that the fire burned right up to our property line, but we didn't lose a single tree from it? Our founder writes, it was just a terrific thing. I wish you could have seen it.